In arcades across America, fingers are flying again, flippers are flapping, bumpers are thumping. After a decade of decline, pinball is bouncing back.
By 1999, Pokémon had already taken over the world. Game Freak, the developer, began licensing out Pokémon to other studios to make more games. HAL Labs and Jupiter stepped in to make spin-off Pokémon games. Pokémon Pinball featured over 150 Pokémon, a Rumble Pack feature, and even the use of infrared to share records with friends. It's time to catch 'em all with Pinball. Welcome folks, I'm Livvvid. Today, I'll be playing Pokémon Pinball, as I've decided to go back and play older Pokémon games. Some I've played, some I haven't. Pokémon Pinball for Game Boy Color is one I've never played. I'm sure the title is self-explanatory. It's a pinball game with a Pokémon gimmick. I'm gonna say right up front that I'm not a pinball guy. I only played a handful of machines my entire life and never had an interest in playing video game versions of it or even Space Cadet on Windows. It's not that I dislike it or anything, I just never went out of my way to play it. Although I loved everything Pokemon as a kid in the 90s, as I mentioned, I never played this game growing up, but I do vividly remember the game cartridge. It always stood out as an oddity when I'd see it at a friend's house or used at a game store. The reason it stood out was because it had a protruding back on the game cartridge. This was actually a Rumble Pack. That's right, a Rumble Pack cartridge for the Game Boy Color. It even needed a AAA battery to operate all that intense rumble action. I have to say, Nintendo and companies that work with them are always trying to push boundaries, and I do respect that. I'm not saying it always works out, but the Game Boy having a Rumble Pack in 1999 is pretty cool. If I had known what that was, I actually probably would have played it as a kid. Pokémon Pinball is just that. It's a pinball game using Pokémon. You're trying to achieve high scores, which will give you more chances or power-ups. Like many real pinball machines, there's a gimmick. This one focuses on catching Pokemon. The ball is replaced by a Pokeball, which can be upgraded to a Great Ball, Ultra Ball, or Master Ball. When it comes to catching Pokemon, you pay attention to the board itself and try and hit the balls in the correct area to get Pokemon to appear. Once a Pokemon shows up, you hit them 4 times with a ball and it catches them. It's added to a Pokédex which follows the first generation games, so it has 150 Pokemon. They're all caught in the same way, but the stages will have certain city locations from the games where Pokemon are found. It's pretty random what you'll find. I actually caught a legendary Pokemon, Zapdos, really early, which was cool. There are 2 main stages, the red and blue stage, a reference to the core game counterparts. The red stage is very traditional and what I imagine when thinking about a pinball game. The blue stage is insane. It has this weird middle portion that has a slowpoke and a cloister that are seemingly accelerating the ball anytime it passes through and in any 4 directions. The laws of physics seem to evaporate here whenever the ball gets anywhere near cloister or slowbro. It was nearly impossible for me to predict anything on this stage. Since we're on the topic of physics, I want to touch on that a little bit. The game's physics are mostly okay, but other times it's really strange, and of course it seems to only ever get strange when it works against you. Sometimes a ball will be teetering on objects about to go down a way it's already been falling, then suddenly divine intervention will strike and it jolts back the other way. Other times the ball will pass right through the levers and swing back up, so I guess it doesn't always work against you. Half of the board is cut from the screen and needs to transition each time the ball passes the middle. This causes a slight interruption in gameplay. It's really annoying. Like in the main series, most Pokemon evolve. Some via earning levels, others by stones or trading. In this game, you have to catch and evolve Pokemon within a game run. For example, just because you've already caught a Caterpie a few games ago, you don't have one ready to evolve into a Metapod already. You have to catch another Caterpie in a run and evolve it from there using the board mechanics. The first Pokemon I ever evolved was a Pikachu into a Raichu. It was nerve-wracking the entire time because in order to evolve a Pokemon, you have to hit a series of objects on the board. They're lit up on the board, but some objects are harder to reach than others. And if you fail, you have to go through the whole process over again. I will say it's a huge rush when you finally evolve something. The Pokédex entries look really clean and the portraits are nice. They have their own entries just like the core series games. These little Pikachus are traitors. They are supposed to save the ball when it goes through the sides, but for some reason if a Pikachu is ducking in its animation and it's time wrong, Pikachu won't actually save the ball. I can't tell you how many times Pikachu was already there, ready to save my run, and it thinks it's being cute by ducking out of the way. It's a pinball game, and there is a level of variance there which can be frustrating. The chaotic bouncing can make it go perfectly between the levers or off to the side, and there's nothing you can do about it. But that's what you sign up for in a pinball game. I'm not going to fault the game on that. Sometimes variance works in your favor and does amazing things, like when a ball gets stuck bouncing between bumpers and gets you a ton of points. So you have to take the good with the bad. There are a handful of bonus stages when you meet certain conditions, like the Meowth and Dugong stages. They are there to give you a ton of points for your high score. Earlier, I said all 150 Pokemon are available to catch, and not all 151 to include Mew. This is because Mew is almost impossible for a human to catch without manipulating the game. I'm going to use someone else's video to help me explain this. Mew must be hit over 1,000 times for it to be caught, but each stage ends after only 2 minutes, so it's pretty much impossible in normal gameplay. The video you see is them using a TAS, or Tool-Assisted Super Play or Speedrun. A TAS can do perfect inputs and use exploits to achieve things most humans can't within a game. Even with a TAS, catching Mew takes over 1,024 hits with the ball and would need the clock to somehow not operate as normal. I don't want to get too entrenched in the numbers and concepts behind this, so I'll simplify it. It takes so many hits because it's likely the game devs didn't intend for Mew to actually be caught. In fact, just seeing it in the game counts as a Pokédex entry as if it were caught. So yeah, without using manipulation, Mew is pretty much impossible to catch. Another Pokemon game, another impossible method to catch Mew. Pokemon Pinball for Game Boy Color was okay. I played around 20 hours total for this video. I'm not going to complain about the core gameplay of pinball itself. There is variance. Sometimes a ball will go shooting down the middle of your levers and you can't do a thing to stop it. That's what you sign up for though. This isn't a game you sit down and play for hours either. When I was playing, it was most fun when I played for about 30 minutes before it started to get on my nerves and become frustrating. If I had it back in the day, this is one of those games I would have left at my grandma's house or something to play every now and again, but not something I would have walked around with all the time. What I liked about it was the pinball itself. That did turn out to be really fun. The catching mechanic made you want to go back and keep finding and catching new Pokemon to fill out your Pokédex. I'm not sure if there are other examples of this in the pinball world, but this makes it fun to go back and play because you're not just chasing a high score. I don't think this is a game I'll revisit for a full playthrough, but I could see myself playing it again for a little bit on a flight or something. I think it would be a good addition to Nintendo Switch Online if it isn't already there. That's all I had for Pokemon Pinball on Game Boy Color. If you like this video, please like, comment, and subscribe. It absolutely does help, and it's totally free. Follow me on Twitch if you'd like to join me playing these games. I'll be back streaming full-time soon. I have a Patreon. Thank you to my first ever patron, Shio. Patreon is where I post teasers and extra content. It will help me make more content in the future. Finally, I have a Discord, link in the description. Thank you for making it this far. I love making content for you guys, and I can't wait to make more. I'll see you in the next video.